A bit of late-breaking injury news ahead of Oregon versus Iowa. You read the headline. Yes, Dakorien Moore is out for this really big game for Oregon and Iowa that has real implications for the college football playoff. Let's talk about what Oregon needs to show and why I think this could be an opportunity for Oregon to really show it deserves its top 10 ranking, or Iowa to really show it's a contender for the college football playoff. What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. If this is your first time watching Adapt and Respond, thank you for joining us here. We talk college football year round. If you're into that, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, like this video, and answer the question in the comments below. Do you think the loss of Dakorien Moore is going to affect Oregon negatively on the road, at Iowa, at Kinnick, in what is expected to be some torrid conditions? Dakorien Moore is the leading wide receiver for the Ducks with about 448 yards of offense, about 28 catches. But more than that, he's had this really great kinship with Dante Moore, starting quarterback, and really been an outstanding playmaker on a team that's got a bunch of playmakers in it. But what I found more interesting about this is just how many people expect Iowa to come away with a victory today. And this gives me an opportunity to talk a little bit about our partner for the rest of college football season, MyBookie. He's got their odds up for this game. Iowa's a 6.5-point favorite to win this game. And I think there's a lot you can glean from that about how the public will feel about an Oregon team whose best win is still just a Penn State team that can't seem to win a Big Ten game so far this season. And if you want to make a late bet on the Iowa-Oregon game, and you're going to do that now, use my promo code. It is RJ Young, all one word, all caps. Put that in, you get covered up to $500. Use your bet back bonus token. If you don't hit, play a game, in-game lines, props, and yes, the spread. And I think this is a great way for you to get into it if you're into making wagers on college football. Now, alongside Dakorien Moore, we've got dudes, right? They've got Malik Benson, they've got Gary Bryant Jr., and they've got Jeremiah McClellan, who's also been really outstanding as a redshirt freshman this year. And this is a team that's already down, though, what I think is his best wide receiver, Evan Stewart, who looks like he's coming back but isn't going to be back for this game. And now you're down to Dakorien Moore. But the thing about this Oregon offense that I think people forget is they're a running team first. And Will Stein is always going to want to run the football effectively and then try to get those wide receivers in one-on-one matchups where they can win and try to take advantage. But when you look at this Iowa team, the thing they do really well, and the calling card of this Iowa program under Kirk Ferentz, is their defense. Phil Parker, absolutely outstanding, amazing defensive coordinator. I believe one of the most underrated defensive coordinators in the history of the sport, given the kind of players that he has turned out at Iowa and the kind of production they put in each and every year. And it's also a program that played Indiana very, very close because it had the kind of personnel that can match up with their speed on the outside and match up with their outstanding offensive line. Indiana, who might have the Joe Moore Award-winning offensive line this year, looks to run the football against everybody they play, right? But the thing that made them vulnerable was Iowa was able to get home to Fernando Mendoza, and instead of allowing him to escape, they would put him on the floor. You've seen a lot more of this, and you will see a lot more of this as Indiana continues to play. Ohio State was the first program to really expose them last year with the kind of offensive scheme they run and the kind of personnel that Ohio State had at its disposal. Tosh Lapointe has those kind of playmakers for him on that defense. It's just, can you get home with 4? And when you send 5 or 6, they got to get to the quarterback, and they can't run by him. They have to hit him. Dante Moore can make some things happen on his own. He's an outstanding prospect in his own right. But I think when you look at this, I'm going to be watching two things. One, how quickly can Iowa get to Dante Moore on those passing situations? And two, how good is Iowa at finishing drives? Mark Gronowski has rushed for a touchdown in 8 straight games, and that's been what Iowa wants to be. They're going to run the football, even with him, who I think is not a bad passer, but certainly not a great passer. They're going to continue to do more of that. It's going to be a low-scoring game, especially if the conditions are as terrible as they expect to be, where throwing the football doesn't feel like it's going to be a big part of your plan. It feels like a luxury in a game where it's icy, it's cold, it's wet, those sorts of things. But I also think that when you can, you want those one-on-ones, and that is where I think we're we're going to see the game won and lost. And this is those when you got those safeties matched up against those slot receivers, those tight ends, or you got one-on-one with corners, because that's what you're going to get from Phil Parker. He does not mind putting his players in match coverage, in quarters, or in zero and going after them. One of the things that Indiana really hated doing against them was going to 7-man slide protections, which means that you're sliding your offensive line and your halfbacks to cover whatever's coming at you. You got 3-man out in routes, if that, 2-man out in routes that you really can trust, and you're looking for a leaker at tight end or maybe at the slot. You might be able to spread Iowa out and try to exploit the open air, the green grass, but again, that means your wide receivers got to win, and that goes back to Dakorien Moore. That goes back to Evan Stewart. Now you need Gary Bryant Jr. to step up. You really, really need Malik Benson to step up. You really need Gary Bryant Jr. to step up. You can tell that I'm very excited about what Jeremiah McClellan might be able to do. Iowa, a number 20 team in the college football playoff rankings. I thought that was a little bit surprising, but this is now an opportunity for them to go snatch a win. And for Oregon, who's got really big games left on the schedule where they expect to be kind of in that Indiana spot where they go 11-1 perhaps and end up with that third bid from the Big Ten this year. And you also need to remember that Oregon has USC, who got a great win against Northwestern last night. And then they got Washington, who will still wait and see on. The only team that actually stopped out Washington has been Ohio State. A loss wouldn't really kick Oregon out of the playoffs, but it's going to make it really, really difficult for them to get in without quality strength and metrics there. Everyone is chasing Ohio State and Indiana in that conference, but at 2 losses, it feels like the team that plays against the best opponents late is going to have the edge there. And Michigan, with 2 losses, still got Ohio State on the schedule, and that one could sway if we see that this Oregon team falters against Iowa or someone else. This is a really big really big game for the season, because I think Iowa is just one of those teams that we're not really thinking about because we don't expect them to make the college football playoff each and every year. But they always come in with a little bit more than they should. I mean, you can Burt Kirk Ferentz for 8 wins every year. That's why he's the Big Ten's all-time leading winner as a head coach. The one last thing that I wanted to get across about this is the kind of game where Oregon would usually excel, right? But because they got that loss to Indiana at Autzen, a game that they lost by 10 points, and a common opponent in Iowa that only lost that game by 5 points, they need to show that they're still the kind of program that Dan Lanning knows that he put together, and the reason that he wants to be at Oregon for as long as they're going to have him. And I just don't see that happening if you're not able to beat this Iowa football team.